Started today. First of all, I'd like to welcome you to the Agorize Lunch and Learn workshop. It's a pleasure having you all, especially Agorize and Brilliant Entrepreneurship. We also have two special guest speakers with us today, Aurélie Wen, who is the North American Agorize Director, and also Brian Prokopowitch, sorry about that, the Business Development Manager of Agorize, and also the founder of StartupTech Unleashed. So the main theme of the event today revolves around entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship requires you to challenge yourself and step outside of the box to reach your goals, hence that image of yours right there. So we'd like you to keep that in mind with you today. So other topics that we will be discussing today are surrounding, obviously, entrepreneurship, open innovation, the Brilliant program, and Agorize, and what their business model surrounds, and all about them, essentially. So to begin this Lunch and Learn, we would like to invite Jeff Pang, the Student Liaison Officer at UOIT, to inform you about the Brilliant Entrepreneurship program and what they are all about.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeff Pang. I'm the Program Officer for Brilliant Catalyst, and on behalf of the whole team, I'd like to welcome you to the Catalyst. For those that may be new, does anyone know what Brilliant is already? Has heard of us? Some hands? All right. So a quick little rundown. We are essentially an entrepreneurship program that's part of the university, and we're here to help students such as yourself achieve your goals, whether it is developing your own business, working in a startup, developing your own skills in a more competitive environment, and to be more competitive once you leave university, we're here for you. We run programs like a boot camp that we'll be doing this reading week. They'll be in this space. Essentially, it's a 3-day boot camp that's going to work on taking an idea all the way to developing it to a potential startup business. You get a chance to win $1,500. We'll feed you both breakfast and lunch. It'll be a really cool time. There'll be mentors, speakers, and also a lot of hands-on activities. What we also do is we run an incubator program. This program is run in the winter and the summer, spring semester. It's 4 months, and essentially it's an intensive program to take your business idea, whether it's existing or it's new, to the next level. So if you have a new business idea that you just came up with and you're like, oh, I don't know if this works, this is a program that can help you. Or if you have an existing business where you're looking to develop it further, we can assist with that also. In this space here, we do have an open door policy. If you'd like to drop in and talk to a member of our team, feel free to. Our hours are from 8:30 to 4:30, or if not, you can reach me by email, jeffrey.pang@uit.ca or brilliant@uit.ca. And after the event, I'll be sticking around if you have any questions about Brilliant Catalyst. Again, thank you very much, and I guess I'll take it off to you guys.
Awesome. Is it Aurélie? Brian?
It's Brian.
Okay. Fantastic. Hey guys, my name is Brian, as they mentioned in the little intro. So since it's a nice small group right now, can you let me know how many people have actually are in a startup or have a business that they've launched? 1 over there, 2 over there, okay. How many people are in the process right now of just validating an idea or just really thinking about doing something that's cool and unique? 1, anybody else? Come on, there we go, there we go, there we go. Well, the whole purpose of this talk right now is to talk a little bit more on entrepreneurship. Now, to be 100% honest, my StartupTech group is a little bit more on the heavy tech end, but to be reality, most of that information can be transferred into almost anything. If it's starting a home-based business, starting a business that is not in the tech sector, it could be in the food sector, it could be in, you know, an engineering product or an IoT product. But in reality, let's go through the presentation. I'll talk a little bit about who we are. So my story really is, I started off in business about 20, 25 years ago in print and marketing. I really had no idea where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I just naturally seemed to migrate directly into the entrepreneurship. You always had this little bit of inclining to do something a little bit different and on your own. And I think starting off and going back as I start thinking about it, you know what, maybe entrepreneurship really kind of clued in on me when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old when I first opened up my first lemonade stand. And then you're getting this inkling of going, my God, I can produce a product and I get paid for it. The only thing at that time I didn't realize was the fact that maybe the lemonade, instead of me selling it for 25 cents, actually cost me almost 50 cents. So I was always losing it. But actually, at the end of the day, you got this spirit. When you started seeing people's faces, they're actually buying a product, they're getting happy, they like what they do. And that little thing kind of stayed with me. So going back with my tech business, in 2014, me and my business partner sat down and he ran a manufacturing business in promotional products. And I launched a tech company called RView. And it was actually an augmented reality product before AR and VR really started hitting off. It was a product almost like Pokemon Go, but ours was actually more in the marketing field. The interesting thing about launching my business back then is you have all these ideas, you've ran different parts of businesses, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the most interesting thing as an entrepreneur. You think you know everything, you kind of have this vision of where you want to go, but in reality, there's all these little missing pieces. It's almost like a big giant puzzle. And sometimes this puzzle, it's nice to have the directions or seeing that image. In reality, when you're running a business, it's like having the puzzle with no picture to look at. You're sitting there going, okay, I'm kind of putting the pieces together, but you're always missing a single piece. So the one thing I could say with entrepreneurship is you're always doing that struggle. And what I learned directly through the process is what I'm going to be discussing through my presentation as well, because I definitely want to have your feedback as we start going through it. But my first piece of advice, if you ever try to do a Kickstarter campaign, make sure you build an audience first, because again, when we launched ours, we thought, oh, this is going to be easy, this will be so much fun, we'll do some videos, our stuff is really cool. And you realize you don't have an audience, nobody really cares about your product, they don't know about it. And that's one of the biggest problems you have. There's so many great ideas out there that haven't been developed that, it could be the best product. You look at, maybe this is going back a few years, you look at VCRs, when you had the VCR product and you had a beta product. Maybe the beta was better, it was smaller, more convenient and better, but the other product got more traction because more people knew about it. It was just, that's what I think was the mainstay with people. Now, reality, I'll start with number one. Entrepreneurship is freaking hard. Everyone has this big vision that running a business is going to be super easy or going to be really lots of fun. In reality, entrepreneurship is almost like that image you first saw with that person standing there on the mountain, desolate. Most of the times when you're running a business, that's exactly what you feel. You get all this energy, really energized walking up, but when you finally get there, most of the time you get so famboogled or scared, or you completely feel that you're always alone. And I think that's one of the biggest thing I learned, and even in my 40s, when we launched our business, was the fact that, I might have all these great connections, but a lot of times you feel alone. And that's what's, I think, really, really important about having these kind of catalysts and having these kind of incubators that's like Brilliant Catalyst is. Most of the times when you don't know and you're not part of an ecosystem, it's hard to know that it even exists. Now, I think the second biggest thing through all the talks that we've done over the years is don't be afraid of failure. I think that's the one topic that seems to dawn on most people, where people get really scared. They have these great ideas, but they don't know where to go. And most of the time they're too afraid to even talk about the idea. They don't validate the idea because they're afraid to share. And I think that's one of the biggest issues I've heard from entrepreneurs over the last 3 to 4 years when we're hosting our events. That one comes to me over and over again. Every time I mentor a student, anytime we do some consulting, every time we actually do a talk, interview, anytime we interview founders, that still comes up time and time again. I think the third most important thing about being an entrepreneur is people are afraid to ask questions. I think the biggest fear most people have is they're afraid sometimes of the answer. And I can honestly say I was the same thing. We launched a product. We thought we knew what we wanted. It was me and my business partner. We're going forward. We think we know where we're going. We're asking a few people, but then being very selective on who we ask, as opposed to really start asking everybody. And when we heard some bad advice, we thought, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's just an isolated incident. We didn't really start thinking, now, is that a real piece of advice? Or is it something that is really going to help us? But at that time, you're so closed off, you weren't open to even the questions that were being asked. You're even selecting the questions that you wanted to talk about to point in the direction that you want, as opposed to hearing the full story. And I found that really hurt some of our business growth as we had our product. And that could be done in tech, that could be done in any small business that you're basically getting into, is ask the right questions and don't be afraid. I think that the last most important thing that I learned through being an entrepreneur is don't be a lone wolf. You know what, I've done that so many times early on in my career where you have a vision, you have an idea, and you think you can do it all by yourself. You know, delegating your ideas directly to people is super, super important. Building a team that understands you, understands what you're doing. You can't be building a business. It's like trying to build a pyramid completely by your house, or you know, a house by yourself. Yeah, you can do it bit by bit. It's going to take you forever. You know, you need sometimes to have the outside validation, what works, what doesn't work. You have to get the other people's opinions on, you know, on color. How do we do this? How do we not do this? I think that was one of the biggest issues we faced when we were growing. We thought time and time again we could do everything ourselves until we realized, you know what, once we started opening ideas to more people, asking the right questions, asking people to join the team, once the team started growing, at that point we started being a lot more efficient. Does anyone have any questions on entrepreneurship, what you want to do, or personal? No, not yet? Okay. Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about StartupTech. You know what? We ran our business, this augmented reality product. It was a little bit too before its time. It was at a time when battery power on your phones was still not strong enough. You had to basically download the product. It was really, really big. You do trade shows. Our product allowed most marketers, and I'll step back a little bit, our product allowed marketers to market products through, I guess, digital information being locked into directly onto a marketing piece. So in actuality, it's instead of having a business card or a flyer or like a QR code, our product allowed you to take a picture of a person's face. I can actually scan your face. I can scan your product. I can scan your box. And at that point, we actually linked in a digital marketing campaign directly to it, which was really cool. The problem is the technology at the time, we weren't there. You know, and through my own personal journey, the way I started StartupTech was the fact that we've had all these pain points. We were afraid to talk to people. We didn't know about these fantastic incubators that were around in the system. We didn't know that there were people like Futurepreneurs or OCEs that you can talk to basically have mentorship. So at that time when we first started, we didn't know who to talk to. So I stepped back, took our product, we benched it. And in 2016, we launched StartupTech. To the point where we are now, we're about 14,000 members. We're about 3 years in. We're in 5 different cities. And personally, we've hosted over 190 events and spoke to roughly about 200 founders. So everything I'm giving in my little speech right now about what entrepreneurs really need to do is based on the conversations we've had with entrepreneurs. You know, and again, everyone has this glorious journey and how perfect things will be when I have my idea will just skyrocket. Reality, most of the people have to really think on how they're going to grow their business. How do they build a foundation? How do they build a team? And we're going to go over some of the things that I think are really important in the startup scene. And I would say for everybody that's in this room right now, being part of an incubator, being part of an ecosystem is the most important thing you can do. Ideas like Brilliant Catalyst right now, being part of an environment that will give you the mentorship, that'll give you the ideas, that will provide all the information is completely ideal. You can't believe when you're outside of the ecosystem, you don't know what's there. You know, one of the biggest pains I had of starting a business, not being part of a university or being part of a program, is you don't know they even existed. When you try to talk to OCE, you didn't know there was an OCE. You didn't know what reps to talk to. You didn't know, you know, how to navigate the system. I mean, the system is very, very robust, but you have to understand who to talk to and understand who to talk to. And I think this is why being part of an incubator program or an accelerator program is so important, because they'll flag, they vet people, they have a roster of people you can talk to right away that answers your questions. I think that is the most important thing. I mean, I'm looking at some basic facts right now just in Ontario itself. And I'll take facts that really relate to the GTA in Toronto. I mean, you look at the ecosystem we have in Toronto right now. One of the facts I have right now here is that over $1 billion was the amount of investment or US investment in Toronto within just September in 2018, which I think is incredible. I remember when we first launched our business in 2014, incubators weren't around. You're at a point now, I think, in the last stat that I read, there's over 60 incubators just in the greater GTA area. You know, with some of the biggest and the best being around right now in Toronto, from Mars. I mean, you're the Community Tech directly in Kitchener-Waterloo. Every system or every little city seems to have their own little incubator program. The other interesting fact that I learned within the tech ecosystem right now and it kind of boggles my mind right now, is that you look at about 28,900 jobs or tech jobs have been created just in 2017 alone in the Toronto area. So that is more than what's happening in the Bay Area, Seattle, Washington, and DC combined. So you're looking at where Canada's going, especially within the greater GTA area. And I'm proud to say, being a resident of Durham myself, that Durham is part of that ecosystem. And we have fantastic systems here through Sparks, through Core 21 as well, and through other little areas that are part of the greater GTA area. So I can't stop saying how important it is being part of this fantastic ecosystem. Everyone first thinks, oh, we're gonna have a business, we're gonna go down to California. Well, a lot of times when you're talking about doing stuff like that, just remember, it kind of reminds me of my time in high school or in college as well. You're almost like in high school you could be a big fish, and then you actually go to university and you realize you're a small fish in a giant pond. Same thing when you end up these startups that we're speaking to, that they think, oh, their startups are going to be all that, it's going to be wonderful. They go down to California, they go down to the Bay Area, they try to start the business, and they realize, my God, they didn't realize how hard it is to navigate, how hard to get talent, how hard it is to grow, as opposed to being in Ontario right now, which is highly, it's one of the best areas to be in my personal opinion, to really start growing. The number of talent that you have over here, the amount of university students that are coming out with great ideas, with great vigor that you've never really seen before. And that's one of the things that impressed me the most when I started StartupTech in my little tech group, is the amount of phenomenal students coming in with fantastic ideas. That excited me more than anything else, even more than my own business. Now, the one thing I will definitely say, let me get to this, is what you need to do. As an entrepreneur, it is the most important thing, is find a pain that you're truly passionate about and try to solve it. One of the best examples that I've seen of an entrepreneur creating something that's finding a pain and solving it was a company I think called Access Now. She was actually at a talk down in Toronto, and she launched a business. She was physically handicapped, very specifically, and her biggest pain point was the fact that as much as she wanted, she couldn't join her friends going out, attending, going to hotels, or going into gyms, not gyms, but restaurants, getting to basic buildings. They might have a wheelchair accessible, but for her needs, it wasn't. So she ended up creating a system, an online platform that actually allowed people to come in, collectively use information directly from the crowd, because that was her pain. She was like, she got to a point that, oh my God, I so want to do this, but I can't. And that pain was strong enough to propel her to create this business. Okay, so I think at the end of the day, find the business that you want to be in, that you're passionate about, that you really go, my God, it might not be in the sexiest area, but it's something that, my God, there is a true pain right here that we have to solve. So that would be my first thing. The second is market validation. And the biggest problem that we've seen from all the entrepreneurs that pitch at our competition over the last 3-4 years is they have an idea, but they don't do proper validation. They don't ask the right questions. As I mentioned before, you have to be open, ask the questions, don't be shy, get your idea out there. Don't have this fear that, oh, someone's gonna steal my idea right away. If they're gonna steal the idea, they're gonna steal it anyways. You can't be that fearful. I find the biggest problems I've seen, and sometimes it's the same entrepreneur year after year after year that wants to launch a business and they don't. The reason why is they're too afraid to talk. And they're too afraid to let the idea out there to really start growing. It's like, yeah, you have to have this idea, plant it, pour water, give it the nutrients, so let it grow. If you just take the idea and just hide it, you can have this great seed, this great plant, great idea. It's not gonna go anywhere. Or you're gonna get out there at the wrong time and it's gonna flop. And I've done it. So I'm telling you honestly. It goes down to, don't be afraid of sharing your ideas. And I know I mentioned it before, but don't go alone. Try to create a good core team, people that really understand you, understand the vision, and really start going forward with it. I think the biggest thing as a founder or as a person that starts a business is, at the end of the day, it's sales. You're selling yourself. You're selling your business. You're selling your idea. You're selling yourself to not just building your team members, selling your idea for customers, but you're selling it to get more team members. You're trying to get people to understand it. I think the hardest sell you first sometimes do when you're a founder is actually trying to get your teammates, get your co-founders, get your teammates actually join you. That is part of the selling. You're constantly selling. And let's go back to this. There you go. And if you want to look at some good case studies right now with students, There's some students right now, and both of them are actually in the Waterloo area. One company is Highride and Port App. Highride was actually just on last week's Dragon's Den. We've actually just won a prize of, I think it was $25,000. And again, it was a ride-sharing app that allows more security. So instead of Uber, it allowed people to get together, but then allowed their parents, friends, and family to actually track them as well. So at that point, you know what, you always have this fear of, I'm just jumping into someone's strange car. But in reality, this product allowed you to share the information. It was just a really cool idea, cool, unique team. They got together, they had a common idea, they worked very well, and being part of a university program, which I thought was really, really cool, is they were really able to use social networks to their benefit and really get their product out there. Within just launching, I think last week, had over 500 customers, lots of users, a lot of exposure. Another example as a student-run business that actually excelled and actually exited is a company, Maluba, directly out of Kitchener-Waterloo. Those were 3 individuals directly. I think they were in the machine learning program. They launched a Siri-type product like Siri early on before Siri actually launched. They got together and got funded directly through Samsung. And that's how they got seed money. Later on, they sold it off directly to Microsoft. So that's an idea of how people can come together in a university program. You can come together as friends to launch a business. Some Quebec run businesses right now that I know that are doing really, really good. Sharebee, which is almost like the Airbnb for storage. Expedigo, which is almost like a Uber directly for package delivery. But then you look in the EdTech sector that you're starting to see a lot in Toronto, and a lot of people talking about it is Top Hat. The people that start off these ideas have an idea of making things a little bit more efficient. But again, when it comes down to case studies, I can talk to you probably for about an hour, so I'm definitely not going to do that and bore you. But again, my name is Brian. I'm here. I'm passionate about the ecosystem and helping students. If you need any help, I'm already a Futurepreneur mentor. You know what? I love innovation. I think that's one of the reasons I'm here today. Innovation completely sparks my interest and gets me really excited. And nothing sparks me more to get more excited is when I start seeing people that don't really know each other. Sometimes it can be just sitting around in a team, in a class. They could be just a classmate that you've never really had a conversation with, that you actually join up and do a project. And the coolest thing is when you start seeing the magic of people can collaborate together, formulate an idea, get it from their head onto paper, then onto a pitch, and actually excel. To me, that's something that's always got me super excited. And I think that's one of the reasons I think innovation challenges and hackathons, to me personally, have always been something I've always enjoyed participating in. So with that being said, I'm Brian. I'm with StartupTech, with Agorize, and I am definitely a super duper startup enthusiast. So do you guys have any questions on ecosystems or on startups or on creating businesses before I just hand everything off? Yep, go there. Yep. StartupTech, we eventually grew from region to regions. We're in 5 different regions. We slowly grew. You know what? It grew from the fact that we had no choice. We brought team leaders in that actually run each region for us. So we're not actively participating in the growth. We basically just support it. But more importantly, I use StartupTech right now as almost a barometer to see what works and what doesn't work. The fact that we've seen over 190 startups excel, not always do good, but you do see almost like the cream rising to the top, and you start seeing companies that really, really start excelling. I mean, a good case example of that is a company called Neighborly. I remember meeting the gentleman when he first launched the company, and it is a product that basically matches. When you try to get an apartment, it's almost like your credit check, but in actuality, instead of going to an Equifax or a place like that to just checks your basic, I guess, credit worthiness, it actually takes social media. It takes images. How do you interact on social media? Who are your friends? How do you interact? Mixes in with your personal buying habits, and it's showcased. It showcased to a person a better overall picture than just pure monetarily. Maybe monetarily they're kind of, but you know what? They'll always pay the bills. So the way the student started up the business is the fact that he was a landlord. He graduated from, I think, University of BC, and then launched the business, a couple businesses. And then eventually he became a homeowner, rented out his house, and that pain point for him was First tenant, fantastic. Second tenant, fantastic. I think the third or fourth was horrible. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. So bad that he had to figure a way that make things, there had to be a better way. He couldn't find any technology. He couldn't find anything for himself that satisfied that need. And the pain was strong enough for him where he sat down and go, you know what? There's got to be a better way. I can't afford this. I can't afford this pain, this pressure. So he created a business that allowed people to do this different types of credit checks. You know, and again, it wasn't a sexy business. It wasn't like, ooh, I want to create a credit check business. It was the fact that he didn't want to change the world with that. It was just common pain. I can see a pain. I can see a simple solution. Put it together and let's see if we can create a business out of it. And he's done very, very, very well. He's actually down in California right now, building a team in Toronto and doing really well. Any other questions on building businesses, on ecosystems, on how to interact or build teams? Yep, go ahead.
So how do you finance your first business? I've heard that you get funding from various organizations.
Yeah.
But considering their institution doesn't know anything,
Mm-hmm.
they think they might have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see people who are they're enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sure where to go and ask for funding. So how
Mm-hmm.
would you address that?
Again, I might be a little bit more of an old fogey in thinking of my methodology. The first time I ever went to try to get business or try to get money for my first business, which was at that time, I think, a print and marketing company, was from an older gentleman who's a friend of the family. And his piece of advice way back when was, don't get someone else's money, make your own money. That was his advice. Today's day and age is a little bit different, especially if you're going into tech. So my first piece of advice is being part of an ecosystem like this, where you're in an incubator, you're in an environment where you can get advice, you validate your idea first, because at the end of the day, I think it's nice to get money, but then what's the money going to do for you?
Yeah, you need an idea.
That's right. So I think the most important thing, and this is through the validation, and when I met some other students directly through Futurepreneur as well, the problem is they have this really cool idea, but the mentality behind it is sometimes, if it doesn't work, forget it. I'll do something different. As opposed to others, when you're talking to them and going, you know what, I don't care what's going to take. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And it's never been easier than I think this time right now. A few years back, it was hard. Now, between Futurepreneurs, all these pitch competition, hackathons, getting an idea, getting out there to get some early seed money, I think is definitely a lot easier. The second part to that is as well is if you have an idea, start validating. You have to validate. Is this going to be something first you want to do? Is it something you're going to want to do for a couple of years? This is not like a quick dating thing. Imagine this almost like a marriage where you're in it, you're doing it, you're going to be doing it over and over. And again, believe it or not, you're going to be like that image that was on the board before where you're on top of this mountain. You feel like you're by yourself. The biggest problem with entrepreneurs sometimes it's like founder's fatigue and founder depression, because you think, you know what, if you're by yourself completely, and this happened to us, is you don't have the interaction. You don't know if other people are going through this pain. And that's the one thing we've done through our group is we've shared pain. We've shared what works, what doesn't work. You know, don't be afraid to take this idea and pivot it into something that has a better direction. You know, don't be afraid. And I think that's one of the issues that we've had early on with other businesses. They're just so focused and I'm going to do this. And heaven forbid, oh, it's always going to work. I want to work. When you have the first failure, they're completely frozen. And they don't move on. And I think that's the biggest issue. If you understand first failure, why, learn fast as you can, then move on to the next. Okay, and just be in that mindset where, you know what, failure is not a bad thing. Don't be afraid of failure. It's telling you yes or no. It's giving you a direction, as opposed to just going out and being so strong, and then you get your first barrier, first no, and then it's you crumble. I mean, that's the biggest piece of advice I learned before. And even, it's like you said, it's the biggest thing in sales too. It's the first time you're trying to sell your idea and they're like, no, it's terrible, it's terrible, terrible. And the only litmus test I really say for most of our friends and most of our groups, and it's verified time and time again, is if you have an idea and it's maybe the silliest or corniest thing, talk to your grandma, talk to your mom. Do they understand the idea normally within the first few minutes? If they can really get it, then you're onto something. If they really don't, redo it, come up with a better concept, repitch it, just so you know what you're talking about. Because my God, how many times you try to validate what you're going to be doing, like, oh, this is my coolest newest widget, or my OT product, or my tech product, and they have no idea what I'm trying to do. You know, I was in print and marketing, and I did so many different things, and when you try to do your elevator pitch where you have 30 seconds, you're like, who are you? And you're like, I do it all in print. It was bombed. And then same thing, when we first did our first pitch competition, we're in an elevator directly at, I think, Bright Lane, when they were holding a pitch competition about 3 years ago. we're actually in an elevator trying to do a pitch. And let me tell you, outside, oh man, you're pitching to everybody. It was fantastic. You're thrown in the camera right here, and they're not telling you when to start, and you have 30 seconds to pitch your idea. Oh my God, did you bomb? It was horrible. I've never felt so little and horrible. But then again, it comes down to practice and practice and practice. Refine your pitch, refining what you're doing. And it goes down to sales, it goes down to life, and anything that you're doing, just really refine, refine, refine. And when you're coming down to your business, refine as much as you can. Any questions before I start handing it off? Going once, twice, 3 times. Boop. Aurélie, your turn. Love innovation.
How does this work? First challenge, right?
Master the clip.
Let's do this. Yes, thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to attend this session. I'm super happy to be here. And so I'm Managing Director for North America at Agorize. And today we're going to cover, well, you set the bar pretty high, Brian. So I'm going to try to be as energetic as you, but maybe not. I'll try. Yeah, coffee, I know. Maybe something else. Oh, does this work? It should? Well, do you know? Oh, it's okay. I'll just be there. It's okay. No problem. And so yeah, previously before, so I've been living in Canada for the past 2 years, less than 2 years. Before that, I used to be head of marketing at Agorize in Paris, where our headquarters are. So as you can maybe hear from my accent, I'm French. So yeah, today we're going to cover a few topics. First of all, what is Agorize? What is open innovation? What are hackathons? And the way we see things. Then the entrepreneurial adventure that was Agorize at the very beginning. As you can see, it's pretty interesting and you should relate to that. And then my own intrapreneurial experience. Being an entrepreneur, like entrepreneur within another company is also very challenging. So first of all, what is Agorize? We're the leading open innovation challenge platform. What the hell does that mean? Are any of you here familiar with hackathons? Okay. Well, these are hacking marathons originally. And the whole Agorize story started with actually the idea that 48 hours is way too short to come up with an idea. And these marathons are actually, well, you have to go back to Facebook and how they used hackathons to innovate faster for their platform at the time. And the reason why we stick to this 48-hour format is because people are working from Monday to Friday. And so the only time when developers from Facebook were free were between Friday night until Sunday evening. So that's how this all came, right? But now hackathons are much more inclusive. They're not just for coders. And we found a way to make them even more inclusive geographically, but also in terms of types of people who join. And yeah, we do hackathons for a living. We organize hackathons for a living. And the fact that we address a much broader audience than just coders made us believe that open innovation, so actually opening the innovation process to all kinds of people, no matter where they come from, is actually our main value and our mission and what we believe in. And we do that in the form of a platform. So our mission is to reveal the best talent and the best solutions, no matter where they come from. And by where, not only geographically, but also in terms of profiles, right? You don't need to have a PhD, you don't need to have a master's degree, you don't need to have 10 years of experience to bring value to a company, an organization who needs your ideas. So that's really what we believe in. And that's actually the #1 reason why I joined the company in the first place. And the #1 reason why I wake up every morning is to achieve that goal and that mission. I wish there was an Agorize by the time I entered the job market in 2008, right in the middle of the subprime crisis. That's why. And what we're most proud of is the fact that we've helped around 60,000 people, talented people, get hired or start their companies, or mostly get hired at one of these 200 companies we work for. You will see tons of logos maybe you may not know because we work with a lot of European, Asian companies, as well as American, Canadian companies as well. And it all started from there, 2011. 3 students. They were in their final year of master's degree at actually business and computer science studies. And the three of them actually used to take part in tons and tons of hackathons all over their weekends, but they grew really tired of it. First, they wanted to have a life. So instead of spending all of their weekends on hackathons, but they really saw the value of them, because first, after a hackathon, they grew really, really much more interested in, they learned a lot throughout the process, but it also made them realize that there's a real value to take out of it for companies. So, for example, the year that they were, the final year where they had this idea of creating StudyCat, which is the original name of Agorize, the year before that, it was Facebook, Twitter, Google who came to submit a case to crack for the hackathon, right? And that year when they had this, this idea, actually it was a frozen food company that came. Imagine the disappointment, right? So, but in the end, most of the class said, oh, we're going to boycott this. This is so lame. Frozen foods. I mean, we're in the master's degree of some of the top business schools and computer science schools in France. We're not going to work on that. You know, I know, very arrogant. But then they had to. And at the end of the hackathon, actually the whole class sent their resumes to the company, to the frozen food company. And they realized we're onto something here. Because if after just a one-day case competition or a two-day case competition, we develop such a very strong emotional bond with a brand, we were actually just seeing as we had very negative image of it before that, then we're onto something. So maybe there's something we can do. And then came the idea of building a platform that could connect any student on the planet to a brand, to any brand, in the form of student competitions. When they first pitched their idea, as Brian said, to a lot of people, oh my God, there was so much skepticism. Actually, they met with a large Fortune 500 company CIO, Chief Innovation Officer at the time. And the guy said, okay, your idea sucks so much that if you actually survive your first year, which is what we call the death valley of any startup, the first year, if you survive your first year, you're pretty much out of the woods. So he said, like, if you survive your first year, I shave my head. Because your idea is so bad, that you're just going to fail, like 80% of all the other startups and all the other entrepreneurs who come to me with sparks in their eyes. And yeah, history showed that person. We're going to send him flowers someday. 8 years later, we're 80 people, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 offices in the world. But the coolest thing about Agorize is the community that we have gathered. 5 million people now have joined our community and are competing in our challenges. And these 5 million people are distributed across 185 countries. So there are 195 countries in the world. So that means that we still have 10 countries to go, but internet issues. And I'm personally in charge of these 2 offices. And so my 30-second resume here. Born in Paris, studied in Germany, in Paris, in Europe, whatever. And then started my career in sales in the retail industry, selling shopping bags to supermarket chains in Germany. Can you imagine? Like, very hard. And as Brian says, you're always selling the whole life. So that was my first jump into the work environment. I hated it so much. Can't imagine. My boss was horrible. The company was horrible. But man, did I learn. I learned so much. And I think sales is one of the best schools in life, because your whole life you're going to be selling. Always. No matter your position, no matter your job, you keep on selling. Then I moved to a big, large company certification, doing like, these are the kinds of companies that certify that this food is organic, or that this company is ISO 9001 compliant. These are kinds of huge corporations that are basically sending auditors all over the world to make sure that the company or the product is compliant to certain types of references. Then I worked for 5 years in the translation world, and the reason why it's important that is because that's when I started, to get more and more responsibilities in the sales, but also in the marketing fields. And I ended up at Agorize 4 years ago, and so you need to understand that. Oh, sorry, all that here was like, work sucks, work sucks, work sucks. Okay, but I'm learning. And when I arrived in tech, man, I found my calling. It was a revelation. The mission of the company, the people who were working there, the founders, their vision, their passion. the fact that I myself would have loved to have that access to that kind of competitions and platform at the time that I was still a student or a young graduate, that was eye-opening. And I think that whatever, if you want to like found your own company or join a startup, it's so important that you have to believe in the mission of this company, because we startupers, we only work for people, we only want to have people join our company as long as they're fans of what we're doing. And that's what I did. Okay, so 2 years, take a step back, 2 years ago, I arrived in Canada. I've never been to Canada before, for real. That was a shock at first. Like I arrived after a snowstorm in Montreal, mid-March, amazing, loved it. Never been to Canada, but then I really came to Canada for personal reasons. My ex-wife actually moved there, and she said, "Hey, honey, pack your bags. We're moving to Canada." I said, "Okay, sure, let's go." So I quit my job at Agorize. So I had to quit my job at Agorize because there's no way that we were opening something in Canada at the time. They did not believe in the project, and believe me, I tried to sell them like, "Hey, I could open a new office in Montreal, in Canada. It's gonna be fun." And then they said, "We didn't do any market research. We love you, Aurélie, but you know, it's just we're not going there. Right now we've just opened a new office in Hong Kong. It's never going to work. Our investors are going to kill us if they actually get to know that we're opening another office in Canada." So I said, "Okay, fine, then leave me 6 months. I'll see what I can do. Just after 6 months, let's sit together, and I'm just going to try and feel the market, talk to people, and see what's happening." Okay, this is after 21 months. These companies were crazy enough to believe in Agorize in Canada and in the US. And I'm super proud of that because, you know, when you arrive, you have no network, you know, 0 people, and you have no idea who are the big players, who are the major companies. I had no idea who was Desjardins, you know, I never heard of them before. I never heard of, you know, companies like CBC Radio Canada, L'Auto-Québec, all these kinds of companies like TD, who are the major banks. So all of that I learned super fast and as fast as I could. Went to a lot of networking events, added everyone on LinkedIn, like literally everybody on LinkedIn. And I jumped from 2,000 contacts on LinkedIn just in France and Europe. Like now I have more than 6,000. And the reason why I'm talking about the number of contacts you have on LinkedIn is because it changed me. It changed my life. LinkedIn found me clients. It found me team members, employees, mentors, partners. So there's one thing to like one key takeaway is like go network like crazy and add everyone on LinkedIn and follow up with them. This is the U.S. Department of Education. So the American government is using Agorize, like an unknown technology, well, coming from a shady startup in Paris. Can you believe it? I mean, under the Trump era with America First, whatever, they're using a French technology to run their open innovation challenges. And this is wow. When I closed that deal, man, that was like it made my day, like my year. In terms of business and money, right? So this is when I arrived in the snowstorm in Montreal. That was a snowstorm in Montreal. Now it's today, December 2018, $800,000 Canadian of revenue from scratch. So believe me, if this is possible, anything is possible. And remember, I didn't know what was TD, who were like the RBC or whatever. I had no fucking clue. The team was when I arrived, and today I'm super proud. We're now 8 people, and this is actually the most fantastic thing about Agorize Canada is because when you're spending 10 months alone in the desert or in the mountains all alone, this is actually what I went through for the first 10 months. You even like forget what it feels like to talk to a real human being, not just through Hangout or Slack or whatever. That was really cool. I know all the Wi-Fi passwords all over Montreal. So if you need anything, all the coffee shops, just ask me. Best places to work for free. But now we have offices. We have people of 2 teams and 2 offices. So yeah, that's my entrepreneurial journey that I really wanted to share with you. And the message here is in Canada, especially North America in general, your network is your net worth. And this saved me. So the first thing that I actually understood is whether I don't know who are the biggest players or whatever, I very quickly understood that who you know is going to actually define what you're worth. The first thing that everybody asked me when I was doing networking events, oh, who do you know that company? Or, oh yeah, do you know that person at that company? And then I said, okay, I really need to strengthen my network. And for that, LinkedIn is actually a great way and platform to showcase the strength of your network. Now, going back to what Agorize does. So hackathons are great to learn and experience new things. And actually, as students, the reason why our participants, these 5 million people that I talked about from our community, what they take away from participating into Agorize challenges is first, be recruited on merit. How many times have you sent your resume and you have ATS now, robots basically, ATS tools are basically automated filters that will just discard your resume if it doesn't have the right keywords in them. And I mean, today, one of our dreams at Agorize is to kill CVs. Like, we really want to put an end to CVs and resumes because it's not the way you recruit people. But through a challenge, you actually get to showcase what you're worth, even no matter where you come from, no matter your credentials or whatever. And also, you get to test the company. Would you be a good fit? And would you see yourself work for that company? Do you adhere to their mission, to their vision, to their dreams, right? Solve real problems, like real life problems. And actually, maybe identifying pain points that you could solve with your potential startup idea, right? Third reason why students join is experience entrepreneurship. It's super scary, as Brian said. Thank you so much for stressing that, because it's really an emotional elevator all the time when you're an entrepreneur. You will have highs, extremely high highs, and extremely low lows. So be ready for that. But if you're like not really sure if you really want to inflict that to yourself, hackathons and challenges are a great way to experience what it's like. During a few weeks, you get to experience what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. To come with an idea, build up on that, draw a business plan, draw how much cost, how to implement that. Expanding your network, of course. These are great ways to meet new people, and through the platform, you actually get to form teams with people from all over the world. Not just people in your same class, same university, like really anyone. Have an impact on future products and services. Can you believe that right now we're running 2 hackathons, 2 challenges, one for TD and one for CBC? And these projects that students have come up with may be in the portfolio of TD or maybe shaping the future of the CBC. And this is actually pretty crazy, right? When you think about it. Win prizes, cash usually, or round the world trips. These are the kinds of prizes that we regularly offer. Gain experience, like increase your employability. Before starting your business, it's great to have experience with previous normal companies. And this is actually a great way to have that. So once again, we've helped 60,000 people get hired at large companies. And this has been very, very valuable for them to actually learn and see what doesn't work, actually. Seeing what doesn't work is actually much more interesting than seeing what works. And get mentorship from experts. I cannot stress enough the need for mentors. This is what actually I wanted to quit, I think, 2,000 times. These first 10 months, they were horrible. Like even, when you start getting your first hires, your second hire, and it doesn't work out because it's like dating, right? You have to kiss a lot of frogs before meeting your Prince Charming or Princess, so it's hard, right? So many times you want to quit, but having mentors, they were like my shrinks sometimes. I was venting. I was like, man, it's so hard in Quebec, business, and they hate the French, etc. So I was like venting all the time, like maudit français. And I'm like a weird animal in Quebec. I'm French, I'm Chinese looking, and I have an accent when I speak French, and I have an accent when I speak English, so it was like very hard at first. And being a woman in tech, all that kind of thing, I tick all the boxes. And being LGBT, that's for real. I mean, I'm a gay, Chinese looking, French entrepreneur, immigrating in Canada, whatever, so yeah. That was hard at first. And mentors were here to say, like, they saved me. So very quickly, how Agorize challenges work. Since it's an online platform, forget about 48-hour hackathon format. It's really like stretching over 3 to 5 months. I know that sounds scary and long, but actually you don't need to work that much throughout the challenge. At first, usually you just need to post a 3 to 5 slider deck, very short deck, just explaining your concept. Let's say, for example, taking the CBC example, personalization of news. How can customize actually the news feed of people? I know it's like, but without being evil like Facebook does. basically the idea. So let's just explain in 3 to 5 slides what's your concept. Post it on Agorize. Then people from the CBC are going to isolate the top 20 ideas that we really prefer. And based on these top 20 ideas, then you will get in touch with mentors from the CBC, from Microsoft, from all kinds of companies that are going to help you push your concept as far as possible. And then if you make it to the top 8 teams, in that case for the CBC, you get invited to an in-person challenge where you get to meet with the teams at the CBC, where you get to refine your pitch, and then at the end of this in-person event, you get to pitch your idea in front of top executives on the company. And actually, job opportunities are there. That's when job opportunities arise, because when you see someone very talented pitching on stage, you have to offer them a job. I mean, you're great. Are you looking for a job right now? Because we're recruiting, and you get a golden ticket that will actually bypass all of that ATS platform, resume, meeting with recruiters and pre-screening interviews, and you get directly to the person who will actually be hiring you. That's basically how Agorize challenges work. One of the challenges that we have ongoing right now that should be interesting to you and are open to all Canadian students is actually the one we're running right now for Schneider Electric. Huge electrical company. Their activities span over many, many different kinds of sectors, electricity, buildings, all that kind of industries. And right now the challenge is, if you have any innovative ideas around buildings of the future, grids, what were the other things? Sustainability in business. Exactly. So what's at stake is so job opportunities at Schneider Electric in an all-inclusive international trip to 2 cities of your choice, where Schneider Electric has offices. Final event, all travel expenses covered by Schneider, to Barcelona in Spain. This is Agorize. We organize very cool events that are open to many people and with opportunities to actually, have all your travel expenses to go and pitch in front of very interesting people in many different cities. So this is Barcelona. We have finals in Toronto, Montreal, of course, but also Paris, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok, all kinds of very cool venues. So you can go check agorize.com for more challenges. And I would love to take questions about anything about, hardships of entrepreneurship, shaving your head when an idea is wrong, or anything about Agorize or our challenges. I'd be happy to take any questions. I'm the last one standing before us and the lunch over there, so that's why there are no questions.
What's the best use case of a hackathon?
The best use case of a hackathon? Best in which way?
And let's say I have a product, I want to start getting more exposure, I want to hire. What's the best way of putting that idea in and talking to you about it?
As a participant, you mean? Well, I think one of the key takeaways is really work on pitch as much as you can and leverage the hackathon experience to network and really make the most out of your mentors. Most of the competitors just are afraid of, I'm going to be bothering them. I will look a little bit dumb if I ask dumb questions. There are no dumb questions. And the second tip I would say is go for it, dream big. Sometimes what is very frustrating is when you have very talented people, but their project is, the ambition is too small. I prefer seeing like a team of students being wide-eyed and having like wanting to eat the world basically and go for it than just, we have this idea of solving how we organize study groups in our university, and that lacks ambition, right? Don't be afraid of dreaming big. Yes. Yes.
I was wondering, there's a non-technical background. Just wondering, in terms of the actual hackathon and competition, are you looking for an MVP or what does that entail?
So it really depends on the challenge itself. Some challenges will really ask you to dig. Well, MVP are actually pretty rare. Hackathons are not like free subcontracting, as I say. Of course, if you want to push your idea as fast as you can because you really want to then own it and own the IP and then start your company out of it, you can definitely leverage the hackathon platform to go as far as you can, because usually hackathon organizers will provide you with tons of free tools, developing tools and stuff. But if you're non-technical, I highly encourage you to form teams with technical people. And that's how the Agorize platform is very helpful, because you can look up for people based on their hard skills, CSS, Java, HTML, or whatever. And don't be afraid of jumping into the fray just because you don't have a technical background. Actually, teams of only engineers or only coders or only programmers, they only make up for 16% of finalist teams. They don't go very far in the competition because they lack the marketing and the business aspect for their team. So the more diverse your team, the further you will go into the competition, actually.
And if I can add, for Schneider Electric last year, one of the teams that made it to the final were only business students. And what they think, as Aurélie mentioned, it's only the idea first. So they thought of, for Schneider, in building, connected building, an intelligent parking system that would update and provide information, so it would be like more efficient and more safe. They didn't have to build it. You don't have to build the product at the really beginning, and they were all business students. So that's an example of.
That's right. Execution, I know everybody will tell you execution is key, but when it comes to these types of challenges and hackathons, we're much more interested in the social utility of your project, the concept, the solidity of the concept, and the impact that you may have, and how big the impact is going to have. That's why dreaming big is important. But yeah, anyway, even if you come up with a prototype at the end of the hackathon, they will have to redo it all over again. That's what you need to be conscious of. Our three co-founders used to code like crazy during hackathons, but they were like, the code was dirty. They used shortcuts. It was barely like standing for the demo, live demo. They were super stressed because, you know, when you code and the code is not very clean, they're going to have to do it all over again. And they said, they actually realized that, oh man, if we had invested that coding time into refining much more the concept, the social value, our buyer persona, that would have been much more impactful, and we would have won. Because actually, at the end of the road, these companies, most of them are not going to be very technical in the jury. The judges will not be super technical, so they're looking for the wow effect. Like, wow, we didn't think about it. So yeah, business profiles are super successful in our challenges, actually. Yeah.
My next question. So in terms of the ideation and coming up with the concepts, do you help with some kind of a framework, perhaps?
We do, actually. We do share design thinking tools, for example, business model canvas, empathy maps, value proposition maps, and also some other sponsors sometimes they will provide like workshops on what is machine learning, what is AI, how can you use blockchain. So we share a lot of content, and actually we're launching this year a success center that will be really focused on providing. So for those who register, you will have exclusive access to lots of tips, tools to help you win these hackathons and challenges, to have a competitive edge over your competitors.
For challenge, have a template. Like for Schneider, it's between 5 or 10 slide PowerPoint, and we provide with the template.
For example, yeah. Other questions? Yes?
Is there like a membership fee, or how does it work with Agorize?
It's free. It's entirely free. I see a lot of hackathons in Canada and the US where you have to pay to participate because for food, for access to mentors and tools. Since it's an online platform, the costs are actually like much lower, right? Because everything is virtual, so that's why it's free for everybody. We had in the past 2 hackathons that we've done with the Oxford Properties and Aviva, where you had to pay like a $15 price, but we really insist on actually convincing our clients that we should keep that for free for all participants. You're giving your time and you're giving your energy. So even if, the prize is great, the prizes are great, but then in the end of the road, it's a great learning experience, but it should remain free for all. I know that sounds weird. Actually, you know what? Some people just sometimes are a little bit surprised that it's free. And we do insist on keeping that for free, actually. Any other question? Awesome. Well, I'll be there. Be hanging around. Thanks.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you so much, Brian and Aurélie, for coming here today, sharing your experience. challenge yourself and believe in yourself and do something that you never thought that you once could, from making it to zero in that snowstorm to $800,000, right? Okay, so I'm gonna open the floor now to lunch. Please help yourselves and as well network with our two special guests, and also with Jeff Peng as well. A special thank you for teaching us about Brilliant and the Entrepreneurship program. So thank you all so much for coming. Just one more round for. And I'm just gonna prepare the lunch, and I'll call you. Bye.
Now I know what